Hi, parents. Welcome to 5 Questions with your Classical Educator. I am so excited. Today, I am here with Alison Johansen. She is one of our just beloved teachers. Her background is in language. She loves poetry. And so I am just so excited to have her for 5 Questions with your Classical Educator. So are you ready to get started, Alison?
I've been ready.
Great. All right. First question. Share with us your favorite author and why.
So, as you know, this is probably very challenging for all of the instructors' favorite author, but I narrowed it down. Before I start, one thing I always tell, this year I taught well-ordered language level 1. And so when students come in, one question I ask is, what's your favorite book? Or do you have a favorite author? And it's interesting because about a third of the class, because it's the youngest age group that we have, will say they don't like to read, right? And so then some of their classmates say, well, this is my favorite. So I tell them, and this is my firm belief, you don't think you like to read until you find that author that you connect with, that one book we all remember, right? That one book when we were younger. And sometimes even when we're older, we have to be reintroduced and find that book we connect with. So that being said, when I was in my 20s, in my younger years, I love poetry. I loved Robert Frost. I love rhyming. I love nature. But now that I'm older, in my 40s, I won't say what number, I've discovered or rediscovered Emily Dickinson's poetry. And I'm teaching poetry, so her poems are in that curriculum as well. But I've rediscovered her. I just did a webinar. It was once a month. The Emily Dickinson Museum held this webinar. So I've rediscovered her. She uses a lot of bird images. And I've always loved birds, just the metaphor for the birds flying, the metaphor for hope that Emily uses in her poems. So Emily Dickinson, I would say at the moment is one of my favorite authors. Emily Dickinson's, of course, this is one. I have 2. There are 18 of her poems in here. They're all related to birds. I don't know, Joanne, I just love birds. So you can see there's a little illustration. This one, a poem about hope. Hope is the thing with feathers. I recommend that poem to anyone in the pandemic. It's been my favorite go-to poem. I just love poetry because you can, send a friend a poem. And even though I feel like I'm good with words and writing, it's just so easy to connect with those classic poems. So this is when I just discovered this summer, this little anthology of the 18 poems. So I just keep it close. And if my children know I read poems all the time. So the other book I've discovered, this one, A Call to a Deeper Love. I don't know if you've read it.
I have it on my shelf. I do.
It's about Saint Cécile and her husband, Louis Martin, mostly Saint Cécile. Oh, I love it. I haven't met anyone else, but I tell everyone about it. 218 letters, right? And of course, Saint Therese was her daughter. And 218 of her letters, just so thoughtful, and everything they were going through that time, all of the challenges. She wrote a lot about education, just so inspirational. So, I got it some years ago, but I'll just keep reading, and I always find something new and inspiring. So these isn't a little different, but similar, So I've just kept this close. Sometimes I'll read some of the letters to my children, but for mothers, I would definitely recommend it for mothers. Speaking of, I'm going to add this in last one since I'm on a roll. The prayer book for Catholic mothers. I just sent this to my mother for her birthday. It's I don't know how many prayers, but on every page there's a Catholic mother who tells something about her challenge or her joy. And then she has a relevant prayer. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think Sarah Mackenzie, who wrote another favorite book, Teaching from Rest, I think I saw her name in here. I thought, what? Yeah. So just an array of things. But when I thought about what I'm reading this summer, those three came to mind. So I love allotted language. I'm also teaching poetry this year. Now, poetry is probably my first academic love, I would say, and continues to be. I love the songs. They're very similar. I love the songs and the poems in well-ordered language. And of course, I love the poems and poetry. So I'll be teaching the art of poetry the first semester, Introduction to the Art of Poetry. Now, let me get this right. The art of poetry. Now, Christine Perrin, I know you know Christine Perrin. Mm-hmm. I've listened to her videos. I could listen to her talk all day. She's created the Art of Poetry book. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. I would say out of all of the poetry anthologies, and I was writing poems in 3rd grade in my journal. I mean, I would always love, I would say it's the most comprehensive, wonderful. I mean, I've been going through that book all year as well. She explicates 39 poems, so inspiring. The first 8 chapters I'll cover in the first semester course, the Introduction to the Art of Poetry, and the second semester course is more of a formal history of the art of poetry. Now I know, Joanne, I'm sure when you went through the book, we know these poems, we've heard of them. They're all the classical ones, but the way the exercises, the activities she suggests, close your eyes when you read a poem to really absorb its beauty. And she always has a page on how to closely read a poem. And she says it dovetails nicely with writing and rhetoric as well as literature, because it's all about how to really look at language and analyze it and then write your own, of course. Yeah. So I could probably talk for hours about this. So 39 poems. And the second semester is a formal history. We get more into case studies. We use the courses are independent, but they would dovetail nicely together as well because they represent the whole book. Of course, something I'm very excited about in the second semester is she devotes one full chapter to the grandparents of American poetry, Emily Dickinson and Walt Whitman. So I love both of them for they're very different, and we'll compare and contrast as well. She has numerous activities. So what I would say, because I did talk with some families about the curriculum, and many have maybe had poetry courses, but I think they didn't really delve into the close reading, or sometimes when you do these activities, Dickinson's poem, I Dwell in Possibility, and it talks about, poetry versus prose. One of the activities is to sort of draw the house that she's explaining, right? And so it really gets you thinking. We'll do memorization. She likes to incorporate hand motions because I don't have the best memory, but I will say if there's a good rhyme or a good song or hand motion, something kinetic, it helps me a lot, so we'll do that. I'm very excited at the end of each course, we'll do something called a poetry slam, where students can bring their own poetry. And, it's surprising. Just a student in my book club today, we did culminating projects. She wrote about 15 poems. Now she's younger, right? Mm-hmm. But poems abound, and even if someone hasn't written a poem, she really shows you can use those who went before and use their format and write your own poem, which can be so helpful. So just so many ideas. And she has little videos about, what's a metaphor, how to use words, use their sound, rhythm, the 8 elements in the beginning of the book and of that first semester course. She really does a deep dive into all of them. So if you haven't written a poem, but you wanted to, it's really, you would do it if you took the course, if you read the textbook.
Thank you so much. I mean, just sitting here listening to you, I can't wait for our
I know, don't you want to?
and students to get a chance to, sit in front of you and read poetry with you and study poetry with you. Obviously it's in your heart, and that's what makes our teachers so special at School A Academy, that you have this genuine love for poetry, and to share that with our students, to inspire and to cultivate wonder and curiosity with the reading and study of poetry. It's just going to be a really beautiful experience.
And that's the other thing, I'll get to read poem. I'll get to read the student, which might be the most exciting part, right? I'll write some of my own, of course, but it'll be so inspiring to go through the curriculum and then, read the poems they wrote. So
yeah,
I'm really excited.
All right. Well, moms and dads, you've had a chance to meet Mrs. Johansen and to just learn about our poetry offerings this coming academic year. But more importantly, I think we've given you kind of a window into the heart of this teacher. So come online, check out the schedule, and we look forward to seeing you in class in the fall. Thank you so much, Alison.